You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to another Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. We appreciate you having the time to listen to us as OTAs are set to begin out at team headquarters, Chap.
This is a beautiful studio. I just want to tell you.
We kind of touched on it last week.
We got two ladders over here.
Just sitting on the ground here. There's one looks like it's about 10 foot, one about 8 foot.
The backdrop is amazing, but we will soldier on.
Yep, we've got lots of lights kind of stuck up in the corner, a few other microphones just sitting on the ground, wires coming out of the wall.
I just wanted to mention that.
But, it's a beautiful space.
But yes, don't you wish you could see it? You really don't. You can just listen to us.
It's almost like my garage.
And be happy with that. It really does. We just need Chap's lawnmower here and that he uses to cut the grass of the beach grove. Yes, we do. But plenty to talk about today as OTAs are set to begin. We've got some news about rules in the NFL. We've got roster notes. We've got some complaints that were Colts related. We've got our top five things that we hope to see at OTAs this week. And we've got a mystery topic that is not included on here that I wanted to bring up that we will get to shortly.
Is it not on the list?
It is not on the list.
Are we allowed to go off list?
Yes. I'm going to make it happen.
You can do that. That's no problem.
Like my kids are now very interested at 1 and 3 in watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, where they have the mystery Mousecatool, where they have this special tool that helps them later.
Hot diggity dog. If you're beyond 5 years old, you know it's not a mystery.
Exactly. Yes.
You want a hammer to hit a nail and all this stuff.
This is the mystery podcast topic right here that we will get to in not too long, I promise. I won't keep you in suspense, but anyway, we'll begin by giving a happy and hearty celebration, a birthday for Anthony Richardson this week on Monday. Turned 21 years old, so now he can legally have a glass of alcoholic beverage of his choice to celebrate the fact that he is now the Colts starting quarterback here.
He would probably buy.
I think he should buy. You can go out with the Reggie Wayne. He has had his fair share of adult beverages over his career that he likes to talk about. I'm going to go enjoy an adult beverage. Is what he always said when he's out by the beach. And now he's choosing not to be at the beach. But
I don't think Reggie needs a beach to have an adult beverage.
No, he doesn't.
It helps.
It does. It absolutely does. But happy birthday to Anthony Richardson. Also, Colts great Gary Brackett has a birthday this week as well. Happy birthday to Big GB and everything that he meant for the franchise during his time here. So some brief roster notes, which we will touch on. The Colts have signed free agent tight end Caden Smith, who is a 5th-round draft pick back in 2019. He's played for San Francisco. He's played for the New York Giants. He's caught a couple passes, gained a couple yards, scored a couple touchdowns in his career. But Chap, as you point out, he is joining a rather busy tight end room already.
They probably need to bring a chair or two in the room. A 7. I believe there's 7 now. And again, it's all about competition. And training camp, we'll whittle it down, and you can never have too many. But we were joking that if you forget the names, they signed a tight end and waived a guard. I would kind of wish it was the other way around.
You would think so.
But, they're doing what they're doing, and they're always trying to – what this is I didn't post a story on the website because it's not – there's got to be a level of importance, I guess.
Yeah.
And this is what they do so much at this time of year is that they're tweaking the bottom quartile of the roster. Mm-hmm. So, but hey, if he makes it, he makes it, and they've just got so many tight ends and not enough offensive linemen.
And the thing about it is, Matt, there's all these tight ends that have at least a little NFL experience, and the offensive linemen, those that are on the roster, there are like fewer of them that have NFL experience, and given where the team had struggles last year, as Chap alluded to, you would think it would be the exact opposite situation. You would drop one of the tight ends, you'd go at an offensive lineman.
I mean, this is not an acquisition that is going to blow the top off the Colts roster or anything like that. It's just, it was curious to me because they drafted Will Mallory in the 5th round. They had already put 2 fairly high draft picks into Drew Ogletree and Jelani Woods. Kylan Granton's not that old either. And then they signed Pharaoh Brown in the offseason. You've got Mo Alley Cox there as well. So I'm just like, how many guys do you need in your tight end room?
Yeah, you say it's not going to blow the lid off the Colts roster, but dang it, we're still going to complain about it for crying out loud because you let go of an offensive lineman. Gee whiz. And you add a tight end. So nevertheless, the team has waived, as we said, a guard, Harris LaChance, who signed earlier this month as an undrafted free agent. He actually played with their draft pick, fourth rounder Blake Freeland at BYU beforehand. So, preseason games. We'll get to OTAs in a little bit. We'll kind of circle back to that. Preseason games, we know for sure the Colts will play at Buffalo. They'll play at home against Chicago, which will follow some joint practices. Those are August 12th, August 19th. And then they'll play at Philadelphia, which is a prime video game, national game, Matt. Looking forward to seeing the Colts on Amazon because they're not going to be on Amazon Thursday Night Football.
No, they most certainly will not.
That is such a pain because I don't have Prime.
So, no, chap.
So I don't know what I'm going to do.
You'd have to get.
Do they normally, when they're on Prime, does a local affiliate pick it up?
I think they have the ability to do so.
They usually, I know that 100% for a regular season game they would. I'm sure that somebody in the market will probably carry that here locally.
It's been Fox 59. We have carried preseason games lately over the past several years, and I think we've diverted all of them to Fox, not to CBS 4. So
well, hopefully someone with Fox listens to our show.
If only we knew people who worked at Fox 59 to see, hey, what's going to go on.
It's kind of one of those situations like when a game's on NFL Network or something like that, but I don't know if that applies to a preseason game. I think that it does because we usually do carry them live.
Right.
Somebody does in the market.
There was a little complaint with the NFL and the Colts and the Washington Commanders that apparently somebody had allegedly made some ventures toward Andrew Luck during his quote-unquote retirement. And Jim Irsay was quoted just a few weeks ago or a few short weeks ago just complaining about that, saying that if anyone has approached Andrew Luck, that's a clear violation of NFL tampering rules. Yeah, exactly. But the NFL has deemed that there was no such tampering by the Washington Commanders regarding Andrew Luck.
Sounds like a really extensive investigation.
Exactly, yeah. They really dug deep into this one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think they really want to dig too deep into this one, to
this
be fair.
Is one where I think Irsay was just sort of saying, hands off our guy.
Marking his territory, so to speak, in a way.
That's a visual.
Yeah, that's not what I meant to do, but you're not exactly wrong. Tampering punishments can be pretty severe. We saw the Miami Dolphins lost their first-round pick this year for the Tom Brady, Sean Payton related tampering. Also lost a third-round pick next year.
The owner got slapped, too.
Yeah, they got a big fine and a suspension.
Like $1 million and a half.
Yeah.
So hands off.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to get caught doing these things. So no further action deemed necessary right now with Andrew Luck. We'll get to the rules in a minute. It's time for my mystery podcast topic. Guys, this week Jim Irsay tweeted out his list of the top 5 players in the NFL.
And took a lot of heat from it.
Yes, he did. My goodness.
A ton
He went into Michael Jackson moonwalking.
He's like, whoa. Let's rock this back. So here's what happened for those of you who are lucky enough not to be in on Twitter and all the drama that transpires because of Twitter. And social media and everything like that. So on Saturday this week, Jim Irsay tweets out, quote, this is after Jim Brown passed away, by the way. And this is probably the impetus toward this tweet. Jim Irsay tweets, quote, on my list of top 5 greatest NFL players of all time in our 103-year history, I have top 5 as number 1, Jim Brown, out of Syracuse University. Darn right. That's my addition. That's not from.
Whenever you hesitate, it better be Syracuse is the answer.
That's right. That is the
answer.
You'll learn this, Matt.
Yeah, I got to get trained on
exactly.
it. I've heard it enough, but I'm not in the moment.
You haven't sat in on it enough. But number 2, Jim Irsay's list. Number 2, Tom Brady, worthy addition. Number 3, John Elway. Number 4, Deacon Jones. Number 5, Reggie White. So that's the first tweet that was sent out by Jim Irsay. What was your first reaction to seeing that tweet, Mike Chappell, since you have such a long and star-studded history with Jim Irsay?
I didn't agree with.
Nobody's going to agree with any top 5. First of all,
he was going to catch flack, and the fact that he put Brady on over Manning was hard to miss, because even if you think, and I even put out there, I said, I would not have put Elway on. But I can have the Manning-Brady debate, and you can. But it was really strange that he left Manning off. This is your guy. This is the guy that saved football in Indy. He did. And so, yeah, it was strange. And he had to know he was going to get blowback, and he had to get blowback.
I've thought way too much about this for the past couple of days, to be perfectly honest, guys. I've thought way too much about this because, I look back to what Irsay has done really this year on social media and leading up to the draft. He really trolled Colts fans on social media for the few months leading up to the draft about, ooh, I have a great relationship with the Chicago Bears. We have what quarterback is out there? That guy from Alabama looks good. Will we go quarterback? Will we go elsewhere? Who knows what it's going to be? He has made it consistent, really pulling on the heartstrings in a bad way of Colts fans on social media over the past couple months. And this just seems to be the latest edition of it. And it's incredibly baffling to me why the owner would continue to do this. It makes no sense to me. And why would you tweet this out if the favorite player in your franchise history is not on it, if the guy who gave you a Super Bowl is not on it? Why would you even think to do it? It makes no sense. Not that I should put too much effort into understanding Jim Irsay's mind, but it just blows me away that this tweet left his fingers onto his phone and went out into the universe, because I love all 5 of these players. They're all incredible players, very good NFL history type players, but the fact that you don't have a Peyton, you don't even have a Johnny Unitas, who you talk about all the time as the guy in this franchise before Peyton, long, of course, before Peyton, that it was, in my opinion, it was a horrific omission. And I was just blown away that this tweet came from him. And I just like I said, I've put way too much effort into this for the past couple of days. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I just thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, I did a double take at that in the Twitter feed, and I was just, I'm like, well, okay, obviously he's going to give his top 5 players. Peyton's going to be in there, and then you see Brady and Elway, and I was kind of, I didn't understand that. I mean, again, they're all great players, and you're going to have your own list, and you can have whatever opinion you want. But as the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who tweets to a pro Colts audience, it was kind of an odd omission.
If you had 50 NFL types, either, execs or media guys, and you had 50 of them do their top 5, you might get 50 lists of top 5s.
I think so, absolutely.
I enjoyed that part of it. But again, for the owner of a team who for so long, extolled the values and the worth and the importance of Peyton, and I'm telling you, if you think that didn't catch Peyton Manning's eye, you're crazy.
Yeah. Here's I'll continue this point, because I think this is really interesting to go down. If you talk to the owners of 31 other teams, or 30 if you're not counting the Green Bay Packers, who are owned by everybody. If you go to the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, Reggie White's going to be on that list, and maybe even Chuck Bednarik is on that list. Concrete Charlie from back in the 60s, who played both ways, all pro, both sides of the ball.
The Rooneys may have 5 Steelers on there.
Exactly. You go to the Rooneys, then you'd certainly have guys like maybe a Jack Lambert on that list. Or if you go to the New York Giants, you have Lawrence Taylor on that list. If you go to the Washington Commanders / Redskins, maybe you have John Riggins on that list and what he meant to that team. It's just, I cannot believe that this happened. I cannot believe that this happened with how great Peyton Manning was and all of his MVPs and his it makes no sense to me, and I'm freaking out about it. Maybe I shouldn't be. I'm not a Colts fan, but I cover the Colts, and I just can't understand why this happened. I can't do it, guys.
I feel like we need to push Dave's reset button on this.
You might have to. So anyway, you have to push.
He's got a real good point, but now he's so far down the rabbit hole. But he makes a very good point. Maybe over the top, but he makes a great point, and the fact that
John Elway refused to play for your franchise.
That's what got me.
I don't know that is John Elway considered a top 3 quarterback all time.
What? Well, let's get to the next tweet now. Oh, we've got one tweet down. We've got more to go, guys.
There was so much backlash or rethinking that there were 2 or 3 other follow-ups.
Yes, so next on Saturday, apparently a couple hours after that first one, he had received enough backlash to tweet out, no doubt, Peyton, there we go, Barry Sanders and Jerry Rice in the top 10. It's just that Elway didn't have great offensive players around him till the end when he won 2 in a row.
He won 2 in a row because of Terrell Davis.
Yes, he did. And his feet were remarkable from baseball talents. So he had great feet, apparently.
And he had a great baseball talent. Potential.
Yes, exactly. So there was the second tweet. On Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
We
got more. We've got from Saturday to Tuesday now, 3 days later. Jim tweets out, my all-time top 5 ranking was casual, i.e., I've received so much blowback on this, I need to change it. But I'm not above more thought and reassessment. My tweaks to my top 5. Jim Brown, the NFL Babe Ruth, always number 1. Which you can, if you watched him play.
Right.
I think
you might argue a little bit, but I think most people.
I think there are going to be mythical figures from each era of football that people grew up watching.
Did he win 8 rushing titles?
Like you might like Adrian Peterson, but you did not see Jim Brown.
Did
you might like Barry Sanders,
8 rushing titles in 9 years,
something like that. Yeah, and then he retired because
he
he's done everything. No, he's I'm good. Yeah,
I'm going to go act.
Yeah, and
be an activist.
He was, exactly, and quite the actor and activist he was. Anyway, Jim Brown, the NFL Babe Ruth, always number 1. Deacon, number 4. Jerry Rice, number 5, has now jumped into the top 5, which makes a lot of sense to me. And number 2, and thus number 3, neck and neck between Brady Peyton. Both amazing to watch and contributors to the game.
So they're top 5.
Exactly. So now he knocked Reggie White out of the top 5, which I will also go into a rant. No, I don't need to rant about that, but he would certainly be in my top 5.
I might have Lawrence Taylor in my top 5.
Exactly. Like you could certainly argue Lawrence Taylor over Reggie White in the top 5.
And that's where you're nitpicking. What's your preference of disrupting force in the NFL?
I know, and this is not trying to get into a top 5 players of all time argument. This is just a Jim Irsay, what are you doing argument.
How is any top 5 doesn't include Jerry Rice?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. It's a great debate, but it shouldn't be a great debate after you give a preface as you did.
His last tweet, finally, on this topic on Tuesday. Well, you have to have criteria on a top list of NFL great players. When it comes to changing a franchise on and off the field, Peyton is a clear number 1 for his overall influence. And that is certainly an argument that you can make with what influence he had to keep the franchise here in Indianapolis. He changed the city's skyline, is something I believe you have said or has been said before in the past, Mike.
If not for Peyton, I really believe, and I've said this, that there probably isn't a team here. As much as Jim Irsay would not have wanted to do it, he might have had to relocate this team. That's the value and the importance, the footprint that this guy left. So it's a great debate, and again, one of the great debates also is how do you rank quarterbacks? You know, and let's not forget there were players and quarterbacks. You know, before 1970, there were a lot of great players.
Mm-hmm. Guys who changed the position of quarterback. That's like I'm saying. If the Minnesota Vikings owner put this out there, he would put Fran Tarkenton on his list because he was one of the first major mobile dual threat quarterbacks that changed the game in the NFL.
Miami with Dan Marino.
I mean,
that's what made it so.
I'm losing my mind, you guys.
Right. So I guess he didn't anticipate the furor that was raised
in me,
but he should have. You're not alone. The fact there were,
and like I said, I'm not even a Colts fan, and I'm reacting like this.
Yeah, but it's just because of the importance. You get past the importance of what Peyton was to the city, which is undeniable. The footprints he left in the NFL. You know, the 5 MVPs and the 2 Super Bowl wins and the 4 appearances and the 50-some touch, all that. It's undeniable. So it's creating something where it wasn't necessary and it wasn't there. You just say Jim Brown was the best player of all time.
That's all you have to say right there.
Because once you get past there, you're going to catch hell, and you're really going to catch it locally when you don't include number 18.
They built a statue of the guy outside their stadium.
They built a statue outside the stadium that he was primarily responsible for.
Exactly.
Yes. So anyway, we don't have to talk about that anymore. But that's
Are you done?
I am. I'm done. I'm finished. I don't have to say anymore.
take a breath.
Yes.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm
done. Okay.
I promise.
Steam is no longer coming out of his ears, so I think we're
okay.
good.
We will go back to the NFL and
We're not going to talk about this next week.
No, we're not. Not unless Jim Irsay tweets again, and then we might have to do an entire podcast about it. Return of the emergency quarterback. The NFL owners have approved a new rule this week that the teams can activate a third quarterback during a game if the starter and backup are unable to play, which I will actually rant about this for a minute too, you guys, but not quite as strong about the Jim Irsay thing, because this change has stemmed from the NFC Championship game, which saw Brock Purdy and backup Josh Johnson get hurt for the San Francisco 49ers against the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, if you don't remember, let me educate you on what happened after the 2019 season. So in the January 2020 playoffs, just before COVID changed our lives forever, there existed a game where the Philadelphia Eagles were playing against the Seattle Seahawks. And there was a horrific, in my mind, very dirty hit by Jadeveon Clowney on Carson Wentz that knocked him out of the game in the first quarter. And shortly after that, after Josh McCown came in to back up Carson Wentz, McCown was he stayed in the game. He tore his hamstring literally off his bone, but played for the rest of the game because he was a tough dude out there. You know what happened next that offseason? Nothing. The Eagles didn't complain. The Eagles didn't go run the gambit about whining to this person and that person. You know why? Because they had two guys on their roster. They made the choice to put those two quarterbacks active and to make a third quarterback inactive. And you always have a quote-unquote emergency just in case this happens, which rarely does. But this offseason, the 49ers, they whine, because things didn't go their way in the NFC Championship game, because something happened that happens in the NFL. It does not happen often. It happened at a bad time for them, but it's whine. We couldn't keep up with the Eagles because we lost our quarterback. We lost our backup. What are we supposed to do in that scenario? Whine here, whine there. Well, like I said, the Eagles a couple of years ago are just like, you know what? It happened. We move on. Like, not even complaining about the dirty hit, which I'll complain about with Jadeveon Clowney, about that knocked Carson Wentz out of that game, that completely changed the Eagles' fortunes in that playoffs. So here we go. Another team, and the NFL changed. They capitulated and made this change to be able to activate a third QB yet again if the starter and backup are unable to play.
I was surprised, and I'd forgotten that this was the rule from like 1991 to 2010, I think it was.
That's what I read.
A thing in the past, yes.
And I guess I don't know why you go away from it.
What they did was they had an agreement from the collective bargaining agreement.
Correct.
That they expanded the active game day roster from 45 to 46 and got rid of the emergency quarterback. The intent then is teams, if you think you need a third quarterback on the roster, you have that spot. But teams mostly chose backup offensive lineman. We need an extra running back. We need, tight end or whatever. They did not use it for the quarterback spot. So the emergency quarterback basically went away.
And this is good for players because then there's another player that gets a game day roster check. They make more money near the bottom of the roster. So it's a benefit for them. It's a benefit for a lot of people in the NFLPA who are working to make it into this league. They get more of a chance to be known and maybe one day earn that second contract. So that's the impetus for that.
The thing that I've never understood, and I have had a talk with Bill Polian about this when he was a long-time competition committee guy, about you've got a 53-player roster, you inactivate, 6 or 7 guys every game.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand why you have a 53-man roster.
His response was, it is a tool to even the playing field. If Team A comes in completely healthy and Team B has 6 or 7 players who are out short term, it's unequal as far as competition. Well, tough, sort of. I mean, it's sort of don't penalize a team for being healthy. It's just crazy that all week you practice all these guys and you expect these guys, X number of guys to play, and then comes 90 minutes before the game you have to inactivate players. I don't get it. I don't see what it hurts to have these guys active. And I understand your point that this was a reaction by a team. Christian McCaffrey threw a pass in the game.
He did.
And he was warming up to be the guy, and they put Purdy out there, and he couldn't throw it from here to there.
Exactly.
But I don't understand what the big deal was about having a guy who all he can do is play if the other 2 guys get hurt. He practices all week. Now, the one stipulation in this rule is he has to be in your 53-player roster.
Right.
So you have to carry 3 quarterbacks on your roster.
Right. You can't just take someone off your practice squad, for example.
Right. You can't go with that. You can elevate 2 or 3 guys on game day.
You can't play that game where you just do that every week. Yeah.
Right. But the way the rosters are now, we're so enamored with the 53, but with the 15, 16-player practice squad, it's roughly a 69-player roster because everybody moves up and down all this. But it shouldn't be this big of a deal where it takes a vote and this, that, and the other. It's crazy to not have these guys active, all of them, on game day. And if you're healthy, then good for you.
Some stipulations with this rule. The emergency quarterback cannot play simply because the others are performing badly.
Benching doesn't do it.
Right. The emergency quarterback has to be removed if a starter or backup can re-enter, which I think is a very vague rule because you mentioned Purdy was able to get back into the game.
What's
the level of?
But they may not have medically cleared him if they had the option to take him out.
So I mean, it's just it opens up the door for
vague,
shenanigans. Is what I'm saying. So nevertheless, this is something that hopefully is not an issue. And like I hate that it was an issue in the NFC Championship game. Because here we are months later, and then this has been a headache anyway, the emergency quarterback is back.
I don't know if I mentioned or if I was mistaken. I mentioned in the story that when the Colts one play away from an emergency quarterback against the Giants, when Foles went out with a concussion, and then Ellinger went in.
I think so, because it would have been.
Ryan was inactive.
Right.
So we were one play away from.
Who would have? Jelani Woods, quarterback he was quarterback at UV or at Oklahoma State. Before he became tight end.
Wouldn't that have been fun to see?
I would have loved to see it.
That'd been pretty awesome.
Like I said, I saw last year in training camp, just inside, like that first day of training camp when everybody went inside because it was raining out, I saw him throwing the ball back and forth with 1 or 2 of the other tight ends. And that ball shot out of his arm because he's 6'7" and 250 pounds.
A preview of Anthony Richardson.
It might be, but I would have loved to see what he could do. Not thinking that he could do all that much schematically, but just athletically at that position would be a lot of fun.
Would have been fun because nothing else was fun.
Yeah, nothing. No, it wasn't.
Also, one of the things from the old rule was that if the emergency quarterback went in before the fourth quarter, you were stuck with him.
Okay. So we'd have to stay there?
Yeah.
That's the old rule?
That was the old rule. The old rule.
And then if the emergency guy gets hurt, you go to the real emergency guy.
Yeah, the absolute emergency guy.
Okay. So let's cover this rule at the bottom first, and then we'll jump back up to the other. The kickoff fair catch change rule. The owners have approved a rule that would spot the ball at the 25-yard line if a fair catch on a kickoff, if a player calls for a fair catch on a kickoff. Doesn't matter where they called the fair catch.
It's a college rule, right?
It is.
It is.
That's correct.
Went in 2018, according to some of the
It'll be a one-season trial for this next year, which is how some of these rules are often implemented. And Matt, as you note here, special teams coordinators have unanimously opposed this rule change and said that teams would turn maybe to more squib kicks to kind of skirt the rule and figure out a way to still give them an advantage, because this is a big advantage. Field position is a huge advantage for teams. We hear
5
coaches
yards
talk
sounds
about
like nothing. It's a big deal.
Everything all the time. Yeah. So I mean, they're going to try to figure out a way to do this. And we saw Rigoberto Sanchez became one of the best in the league at getting it inside the 5-yard line.
Because that's what you want.
Right.
If you get in the end zone, okay, that's fine, out to the 25. But rarely, it does happen, but rarely when a guy gets the ball inside the 5 and he's forced to return it, does he get it out back to the 25.
Yeah.
I think squib kicks are going to be really risky.
I think so, too.
Because you've got to get it down far enough to where it's not inside the 20 or whatever. But I just think it's crazy. I mean, I understand. This is a league that's hell-bent on safety, but there's only so much you can do safety-wise. And I saw a stat. I wish I could have found it to bring it in here, but this is a result of the inordinate number of concussions percentage-wise that happen on kickoffs.
Correct.
And somebody with ESPN or The Athletic broke it down, and most of the concussions from kickoffs came from bringing the ball out of the end zone, which you've not eliminated at all. So you're still going to have that.
Right. So that's still a thing.
It's still football, and most of the players say, you can't legislate violence out of the game. That's what they're trying to do with some of the things on what you can do with some of the quarterback things on roughing was just ridiculous last year. I'm not in favor of this. And, Devin Hester, you think Devin Hester would like this?
Oh, no. He'd probably still bring it out anyway.
Could you imagine Devin Hester fair catching the ball at the 10?
No.
Absolutely not.
So
I don't even know if I could imagine Dallas Flowers fair catching the ball.
He would take it.
8 yards deep.
He took one back 8 or 9 yards deep.
Yeah.
You're thinking, and there are times I would say, they're giving you the 25-yard line if you kneel it. So I don't like it. I sort of understand if the league was so interested, committed to safety, there wouldn't be Thursday games and there wouldn't be Thursday night flexing and all this stuff. So I'm not on board.
You bring up a very interesting point there, Mike Chappell, because that leads us directly into the fact that the NFL owners have approved flexible games on Thursday night football. They're so concerned about player safety that they say they can give you like 2 or 3 weeks warning, or I think it's 4. I think it's 28 days.
28
so
days
it's
warning.
4 weeks warning, excuse me, that there might be another Thursday night game in your future if you are an NFL team. So, yeah, they care so much about your safety, they're going to put you on Thursday night again.
If players had the leverage, the one thing they would get rid of are Thursday games.
Yes.
Without question.
Yes. So it passed with a 24-8 vote, which is the minimum number of votes needed to approve.
Only slid by a vote.
by a thread. The NFL can flip Thursday night games in weeks 13 to 17, so they're hoping to avoid this is to capitulate to a new television or
Our
broadcast
great Amazon
provider.
overlords on Thursday.
Indeed, they are. They're trying to throw them a bone here and not let them have a dud of a game.
They are paying good
billions
money.
of dollars. They are. To be fair, they are paying a lot of money, and to be fair, NFL players are making a lot of money to be out
it's
there.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is.
And most players, I think, especially younger ones, will take more money and less downtime or turnaround time between games. Most players, I think, younger players, are okay with this.
They are fine with the risk. DeForest Buckner would prefer not to, This is his 3rd or 4th contract that he's on right now in the NFL. So, and I just use him as an example, not because I've talked to DeForest
the older the
about
player,
this.
the more veteran the player, the less they like these.
Right.
And there's a Friday game this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
the Black Friday game.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna, if they could play Fridays regularly, they would.
Oh, I think so too.
Say if the NFL could get away with a game every day of the week, they would try to do it because they know it means eyeballs and money and advertisers.
Mm-hmm. So the NFL had tabbed an earlier version of the proposal here in March because Giants owner John Mara had called it disruptive to fans, and that's another aspect of this. Mm-hmm. Fans who want to go to this game, who have plans to go to, I don't know, the Colts week, whatever, late season game somewhere, and then all of a sudden it gets flexed to a Thursday night football. Well, I made plans to fly in on Saturday and go to the game on Sunday and then fly home on Monday. And now I have to change all my plans.
Airlines don't care.
They don't.
They're not going to give
that's
you
the problem. That's another problem here. It's not good for the fans. And it's certainly easier for the home fans to maybe make changes. But for the road fans who are going to try to see one of their teams in a special place, you build a vacation around going to New York City or going down to Miami, for example.
Going to Vegas.
Yeah, going to Vegas. Completely. It's tough luck from the NFL to the fans because, this company, Amazon, is paying us billions of dollars to be able to broadcast our games, so we're going to do what they want right now instead of what the players want.
And it's only going to be 3 or 4, or what, 2 times, is it? 2 or 3 times?
It can happen.
Max. I think they said there's a maximum. They can only use that twice.
Right. So anyway, the teams that voted against it were the Giants, the Jets, the Packers, the Bears, the Raiders, the Lions, the Bengals, and the Steelers, per Adam Schefter. So you can thank Jim Irsay for passing this rule, Colts fans.
Well, you're right.
There's one. Like I said, there's one vote. There was one vote, but anyway.
And of course, depending upon the matchup too, I could also see a scenario where they don't flex anybody because teams are still not allowed to play more than 2 Thursday night games. So you could run into a situation where, like the Bears already have 2 games, and I don't expect that they would be flexed in, but you never know. Now they can't in weeks 13 through 17.
And I heard that if you have one road Thursday night game, you cannot play 2 Thursday night road games in a year. So that would be something like
depends upon what the schedule, how it lines up and stuff.
Yes,
so,
exactly. So there are some rules to kind of say, but we're still kind of caring about player safety here, where just don't look at the man behind the curtain type scenario. But anyway,
trust us.
Yeah, exactly. Just trust us. I did want to get one more quote there about the fair catch rule from my guy, Syracuse's own Zaire Franklin, who of course, made his name in the NFL on special teams and now earned a second contract in the NFL and is starting and playing big minutes on defense. You think special teams wasn't important for him and for being seen and for earning trust in that locker room, whatever. Like Zaire says, at what point are you just going to accept football as a violent game? If you want to play 7-on-7, just say that. You can't keep trying to phase out parts of the game. So that's what a lot of players believe. Even guys like Zaire, who's now earned that second contract because he knows the value of special teams for his career. So anyway, that's all we really have to talk about that. So then we can turn our attention to OTAs, which begin this week. 10 OTA practices in total coming up. We will get to see all the Colts on the field all at once, preparing for the 2023 season. A lot of things that we can look for, that we can report on some things, and some things teams, Chap, in the past have
see.
Yeah, exactly. Have been kind of hemming and hawing about like what we're allowed to say. I know we're allowed to go out there and shoot video, so maybe for the first 10 or 15 minutes, like it's kind of fair game. Maybe, I don't know.
But you're not going to see who lines up in the offensive line. You're not
exactly.
You're not going to see, the cornerback rotation and all that. And that's
those are the things that we're kind of interested in.
That's what we want to know. Again, they're going to let us see things, but then they're going to tell us what we can report on what we saw, which is, the alternative is to not see anything.
Exactly.
So we'll see. And the Colts are very, very good about letting us do a lot.
They're helpful at letting us do what we can.
To the limit, yes. So that's, and you either deal with it or you don't go out there.
So for all of us, we have a top five list of things we hope to see at Colts OTAs this week. By the way, you can follow us on Twitter. Mike is at mchappell51 for his observations or whatever he's allowed to tweet out there at OTAs. I'm at DaveG_sports. I'm still kicking around what I'm going to do over this week, whether it's Colts or whether it's being at the track, because obviously being at the track.
This week?
There's a fairly notable race,
fairly major one coming up this weekend. You can follow us as a team at Colts Blue Zone for news and notes throughout the week as well. But top 5 things we hope to see at OTAs. We'll start with one, each of us, and then go down the list to 5, because I think that we'll have maybe a little bit more in sync at the top.
Once we get past Jim Brown at the top,
exactly,
there'll be diversity.
There's some arguments to be made after that. Gosh, Mike, why do you bring that up again? Get me all bothered over here. Anyway, top 5 things we hope to see at OTAs. And after that, there wasn't a whole lot of direction here. So we could have some similar things, some more specific, less specific things to talk about. But I'll go first with my number 1, and then Chap, and then Matt, and then we'll kind of give our reasons, and then we can kind of kick them around and talk about it after that. And then we'll go down to number 2, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, the first thing I hope to see at OTAs is, I said, a capable Anthony Richardson. I don't need to see him perfect. I don't need to see him in a full command mode out there from what we're allowed to see. But I want to see him capable. I want to see him out there making some good plays and some bad plays, because you're going to learn. I just don't want to look out there and see a guy who's completely over his head right now, because this is just OTAs. This is the beginning of everything. We're not one day away from a game. I'm not going to live and die by every throw that comes out of his hand. But I already know that he's athletic. I already know that he can run, he can throw the ball a mile. That's obvious. I want to see him go out there and show that he at least has some idea of what he is doing and is not completely being directed everywhere and is looking around like, what's going on? Where am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to throw it to? Like, show a semblance of knowledge right now that you have picked up in your first couple weeks here in Indianapolis that you can build on for the future. That's not my number 1. I want to see a capable Anthony Richardson. Chap, how about you?
I'll take sort of a different direction with that. I want to see how they handle Richardson and Gardner Minshew with reps. All we've heard during the offseason since the draft is remember what Ballard said, is we drafted him for what he can be in the future. But then they said reps, off-season, preseason, and that's fine. But they can't give him every first-team rep, because you've got to get Gardner Minshew ready just in case. I mean, I'm still, and I've said this, I totally believe that Gardner Minshew will be the most ready quarterback for September 10th. He's a veteran. He's been in the system. But if they can get Richardson to whatever level it needs to be below Minshew, then I start him. But how do you get the rookie the reps he needs, and he needs every rep he can get, with also getting the veteran guy enough reps. Once the argument I've made is, let's say they start the season and Minshew's the starter. Well, once the season starts, how do you get the rookie enough reps to make a difference? So it's really going to be interesting how they kind of divvy up the reps. Most teams that have a quarterback, he gets the reps, whether it's Carson Wentz or Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan, they take the reps. The backup runs the scout team. But here they've got sort of two guys, and they've got to get them both ready just in case. I want to see how they kind of divvy it up.
All right, Matt, your number one thing you want to see at Colts OTAs this week?
It involves Anthony Richardson. How does he look out there? And I really want to know, will he, and you may not be able to see this yet, but I'd like to know, does he have chemistry and with Joshua Downs, especially in the wide receiving core? That's what I want to see.
Okay, cool. I like to. Obviously, all of us have Anthony Richardson number one. I just wondered how each of us would take it. And like Chap, I think the reps is going to be really intriguing all throughout the summer too, for sure. I think,
and that's something we can watch. We can see in practice.
Yes, exactly.
They're not gonna the days. I think we get about 6 days or 7 days when we can watch practice. I think it's 6.
Yeah.
They're not going to disrupt those 6 practices to keep us guessing.
No.
So what we see for the most part will be how they're going to do it now and in training camp.
They can't afford to keep us guessing.
Exactly.
They need to get ready. And I'll go back, as I always do, to Carson Wentz in 2021, where
I didn't mean to mention his name.
Well, they canceled OTAs. They only had basically the one mandatory minicamp because this was the year after COVID, and they just had that one session, and that was it. And the company line would be, well, Carson and Frank have worked together before, so he should be on a good page with him. He'll be able to pick it up quickly. That team was not ready to go week one for many reasons. I believe number one primarily was canceling the offseason, basically. Number two, he obviously got hurt in
first or second practice.
Exactly. Yeah. So that compounded it completely.
Just disrupted your whole learning curve.
So you can't do one thing. Like, you can't just say, oh, we'll get Anthony Richardson more reps in training camp. Well, you need the reps now because you don't know what's going to happen in training camp. So that's the point that I was trying to make. Like, he needs to get some reps now for sure. And by the time the training camp comes around, I think that that will get more intriguing.
Don't you think they'll know by training camp whether he gets it or not?
I would hope so.
I would like to think that they will know, and maybe if they don't know, then you know.
Yeah.
So and everything we've seen and heard from these players is this kid's he's smart, he's a quick learner, and he's a leader.
We'll see about that.
Well, and you don't know because this week they started OTAs yesterday. This is the first time that they've really kind of been out there, playing almost football.
Right, almost football.
So, but it's important. Every rep he gets is important. Don't tell me that reps are important and then you don't give him what he needs. So it's really going to be an interesting offseason and training camp.
All right, let's go to number 2, our top 5 things we hope to see at Colts OTAs. Chap first, Matt second. I'll wrap things up. Chap, what do you have for number 2?
Check. I'm not expecting Shaquille Leonard to be out there taking every rep, doing everything. I hope he's doing something. I just do. He had surgery in November. He's had 2 surgeries in less than a year. The first one didn't work. And to me, the drop-down date is the start of training camp. For him to be out there practicing, and being ready to go sort of full bore in September. But I would like to see him doing something as opposed to just being a cheerleader and a coach. I think it will be a decent step for him to be out there doing something to give us, because if he's not, if we don't see him out there now or in Veterans Minicamp, then these questions linger until training camp. So I want to see him doing something because he's vital to this defense.
Matt Adams, your number 2 thing you want to see at Colts OTAs.
Very similar to Mike. Shaq Leonard, what's his status going to be? And then also because they're pretty thin at linebacker. So if he's not ready to go, they didn't draft anybody. We don't have any free agents. There's still some time. There'll be cuts and that sort of thing. But I would really like to see Shaq out there moving around, seeing what we get. And then I had added to that another injured player in there, essential to the team, but not as pivotal a position, Rigoberto Sanchez. I've not heard much about his recovery, and because the punting game was not very good last year. Rigo was one of the best in the game when he was healthy. So I don't know where his recovery is, if he'll be able to be out there, but I'd like to get an update on him as well.
Yeah, mine was just wide here at number 2. It's just healthy players. I want to see healthy players, and that starts with Shaquille Leonard. Guys who were injured last year include Jonathan Taylor, Tyquan Lewis, Rigoberto Sanchez, Alec Ogletree, Isaiah Rodgers. All of them were on IR, I believe, or injured at the end of the year. So I want to see of them who is back, who is not back, who is fully back. You know, that there are different levels of being back here, and also to stay healthy. Like that's huge. This time of year, you don't want anyone to get tweaked.
Who just blew out an Achilles? A guy with the Giants, was it?
Yes, yeah.
Armani Rogers, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's the idea.
Devastating.
And Sanchez blows out his Achilles
running in practice,
at the end of training camp, and so I hear you with that. The one thing that we need to keep in mind is teams, including this team at the top of the list. If a guy is not ready, really ready, he's not going to be out there.
Right.
This is the time to give you more time. So everything you said is right. I keep saying Shaq just because it's been since November, and the first his first rehab from the surgery was like 3 months, and we're well past that. Although they told us they hurried along too much. I just want to see proof of life.
Yes.
Yeah. With Shaq out there, but the other guys you mentioned, I've got one of those later on, but all really important to see him doing something.
Yeah, and you're not wrong with saying this is a time of year to rest players if they are not ready. Like if Shaquille Leonard's not ready, I don't want to see him out there if I'm a Colts fan. But if he's not there, it starts the here we go again mentality in your head because of what happened last year. That's something you don't want as a fan, as a coach on that team, as a player on that team who's in the locker room with him. Like you want to see him out there actually playing. Yes. So, number 3. Number 3 things we hope to see at OTAs. Matt Adams first. I'll go second. Chap, you'll wrap things up with number 3.
It goes a little bit back to the top of the show. What's up at tight end? Just because they have so many guys out there, who's going to do what? Who's going to be, ahead of the pack? What are they going to do with Will Mallory? I think Jelani Woods is the one that I know is going to stick. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, Mo Alley's been there for a while. He's probably their best blocker, but they also brought in Pharaoh Brown to do some blocking as well. So there's so many guys out there. I'm just real interested to see kind of how they split things up, who stands out, that sort of thing.
All right. My number 3 thing I hope to see at OTAs is participation / contracts being done. So I would love to see guys like Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor and Kenny Moore out there for sure. And I don't know for sure they'll be out there. They're not going to be out there. But last year, Kenny Moore was not participating during some of the offseason. And I think injuries had something to do with that, to be fair to Kenny. But there was some talk even last year, about him holding out. And all of us on this podcast or even in the writer's room were not optimistic anything would really get done, and nothing did get done. And I don't know if anything will get done with Kenny right now anyway, because they're still trying to see what he is in this defense. And there are 2 other guys who are probably more important, especially to the offense of this team, with Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor. So you want to see everybody there participating. You don't want to see any holdouts, and I don't think either JT or Pittman would hold out. I can't say for sure, but I would love to see their contracts get done right now, because you have an idea of what your future is going to be here. You have a rookie quarterback, a rookie contract that you have some flexibility, Chap, to get things done. So I want to see people out there, and I would love to see one of the contracts, if not both contracts, with Pittman or JT get done. So on to you for your number 3, and then we can discuss all these.
One thing back on yours, I think they got the extensions done with Shaq and Smith and who was it? Naheem Hines, was it? Mm-hmm. At the end of training camp.
Yeah, that's what Shaq's was.
So
done for sure.
You may be very.
I'm hopeful. Yes.
Yes.
Hope springs eternal.
I'd be surprised if that happens, but it'd be great in the end. Do you do one? Do you both? Whatever. That's a really interesting dynamic we've touched on before. My number 3 is the offensive line rotation. I just want to see how this is going to line up, because they've done nothing, almost nothing, to improve this group. The most important offseason addition is a guy that's not going to play, Tony Sperano Jr., which is totally damning on Chris Strasser. I mean, how else do you read it? So I want to see is it right guard? Is it Will Fries? I assume. Mm-hmm. And then what's the depth? I'm not way up to his name now. Iki. What's the local kid? Iki.
Emir
Ekiyor.
Ekiyor. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ekiyor.
He could be the backup at guard, and almost just as important. What do your tackle backups look like? Somebody has got to develop into a swing tackle. Mm-hmm. Is it Blake Freeland? Probably. So you're putting a
you throw up your hands. You say probably.
Well, give me
another name.
Give me another name. That's what I want to see. And in OTAs, we will see whether reported. I'm not sure. We got to get clarification, but we will see with our eyes how they're running these guys on the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that they're done adding guards, like a veteran guard, maybe to compete, especially with Will Fries or Emil Ekiyor or whoever it is in the interior for that starting job. So, like, I left offensive line off my list, but I think it's very interesting how that obviously transpires over the next couple weeks for sure. For sure. All right, number 4. Top 5 things we hope to see at Colts OTAs this week. I'll go first, Chap, then Matt. My number 4 is I want one rookie to wow me. One. Give me one. Because right now, everyone's learning, so, like, you don't expect anybody to be...
Minus a quarterback?
It could be the quarterback. Okay. We can include the quarterback. I just said, like, earlier, I don't need Anthony Richardson to wow me, and I'm fine with that.
I do, but go ahead.
You need him to wow you right now. He has to. No. Like, I'm fine with him not wowing me. I'm fine with him being fine for now. I want one rookie to be, like, to really catch my eye.
Josh Downs.
Whether it's Josh Downs, who I would love to see Josh Downs. Whether it's Blake Freeland, nobody can get by him, you know. Aditamiwa Adibare, if he's just like, you can't really, it's hard to tell with defensive line and offensive line.
I want to tell people that it's not that I'm going to be ignoring him,
right?
But it's very hard for me to announce his
Tommy. Like maybe Darius Rush gets like 3 interceptions or something like that. And I know it's hard because it's not true 11-on-11. But we got Will Mallory. Maybe he's catching everything thrown his way. All these guys. Evan Hall looks really good out of the backfield catching the ball. So, like, I want one guy to catch my eye and say, you know what, I really think this guy's going to be a player. I don't care who it is because, like I said, right now I expect everyone to be learning and not at their potential yet. But hopefully one guy is ahead of the curve. That'd be fantastic if I'm out there, if I'm a Colts fan. And if I can watch him and tell you that this guy appears to be ahead of the curve right now. Chap, what do you have for number 4? Top 5 things.
I went more positional because that's how my brain is. I want to see how the cornerback situation is. And the problem is the projected, maybe the top corner, Juju Brents, won't be out there.
Right.
With the broken wrist rehab. But I just want to see how they line up and which tells me how Gus Bradley views the cornerback room. Safeties I'm okay with. I had hoped all along they would bring in a veteran corner. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think
they count Kenny as that guy, really.
Yeah,
sort of.
But I mean outside the building.
I know.
I think, like you said, like a guard, and I don't want to disparage guards, but I think you can bring in a guard late and he can play. I really do.
Mike Chappell hates guards.
I know. Well, I just have him.
Blue Zone Podcast.
I don't have him in the top 3 of my position priorities, but I think at corner you need time with a group. So although Kenny Moore, came in once the season began, I think. His first year. I want to see how the corners are, Isaiah Rodgers and Kenny and those guys. I want to see, and they get the 2 young kids as well. I want to see how this team views their cornerback depth.
All right, Matt, what do you got? Number 4.
I had cornerback play in my list,
nice.
So I'll just go ahead and discuss that as
all
well.
Right, yeah.
Very similar to what Mike had to say. I think Juju Brents is probably going to be a day 1 starter. What we get from on the other side, whether it's Darius Rush, whether Isaiah Rodgers, Dallas Flowers, whoever that is, I just kind of want to see what that group's looking like, what the pecking order is going to be with cornerbacks.
Yeah. All right, yeah, completely. I think cornerback is definitely a good topic. All right, we're on to number 5. Our last thing, our top 5 things we hope to see at Colts OTAs this week. Chap, if you want to go first, and then Matt will go second. I'll round things out, and then we can break it all down afterward. What do you got?
You touched on it. The health. JT, I had JT.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really good chance that he doesn't practice. He had the surgery after the season to, clean up take particles out of his ankle, whatever.
A procedure.
Yeah,
a procedure.
Quote, unquote.
So I think he can miss time, although this is a new offense and they need to get guys involved. But I want to see how he's coming along, which I don't think I will. But I had almost forgot all the long list of guys that Tyquan Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
He's really important to that defensive line. Rigo, we've not seen him, talk to him since before he blew out the Achilles.
Yeah. Like, we didn't talk to him at all in training camp because that was early in training camp. That was either first or second day, something like that.
And you don't talk,
we don't talk to them in the offseason.
Unless he's Pat McAfee, you don't talk to punters.
No, we probably didn't talk to him since the end of the 2021
season.
And Carson Wentz was still the quarterback here, and we talked to Rigo Sanchez last.
And Rigo is he a Pro Bowler? Yeah, he's right
Fringe.
there. But he's good.
Yeah.
He's really good. So I want to see, again, I would think with the mechanics of a punter, that's got to put such a sudden strain on the Achilles. I want to see how he's getting along, and I hope we can talk to him tomorrow. We'll see.
That'd be great. All right, Matt, you're number 5.
I want to see some explosiveness, some consistent explosiveness from Dayo Odengbo.
Dayo
Odengbo,
yes.
Because I think he came on a little bit at the end of last year, but boy, if he can get going with Kwity Paye there on the outside with the rush, it'd be great. And this is the second year removed from that Achilles injury and surgery that he had. So I think if that would be my big wish list was, hey, get Odengbo healthy and looking great.
Yeah, my number 5 is tight ends, which you talked about earlier, Matt. So
which one?
Exactly. Like, what are we doing here, guys? What's the deal at tight end? So what's the deal with that? That's what I want to see at Colts camp this week. Yeah, all worthy additions. I think all of them. So let's get healthy. Let's stay healthy. Let's watch a quarterback grow and mature. Let's see some dynamic plays from Dayo or others.
I just want to see Richardson show that it's not too big for him, which is what we've touched on.
Which is kind of what I wanted. I just said that in a different way. Yeah.
Just and again, I remember when, and it's not fair. It's not. I remember when Peyton came in, and I remember when Andrew Luck came in. They took control. Mm-hmm. I remember they were saying how Andrew was calling plays that were like the 6th chapter of the playbook on the first day, and they said, no, let's dial it back a little bit. But you want the quarterback to take control and be the guy without being overbearing. And I don't know if we're going to see that during OTAs, but again, like you said, how does he interact? And can he slip into the leadership role?
And follow all Mike's work online, fox59.com, cbs4indy.com. Read the stories that he will produce over the next couple, tomorrow specifically, but over the next couple weeks for sure.
I've got my top 5 posting a little bit later today.
All right. Probably by the time this podcast drops, it'll be out there. You can head online right now. Check it out. So if you have not subscribed to us, do so already. Get us delivered to your podcast listening device as soon as we drop. For Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Appreciate you listening. We will see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone Podcast.